In a small bustling town in Nigeria, there was a doctor named Dr. Kola. Dr. Kola was a very good doctor, but he had one unusual rule for his hospital. He hired only the most beautiful nurses. Now, you might ask, why would a doctor do that? Well, Dr. Kola knew something others didn't. Beauty could attract people, and if people came to his hospital, they would get better care. At first, the townspeople were curious. They had never seen such beautiful nurses before. Nurse Blessing, Nurse Linda, and Nurse Mary were not only kind and caring, but they were absolutely stunning. They had bright smiles, sparkling eyes, and the most beautiful faces. Word quickly spread about Dr. Kola's hospital. But something funny began to happen. Men from all over the town and even from faraway places started coming to Dr. Kola's hospital. Now you might think they came because they were sick, right? But that wasn't the reason at all. One day, a man named Mr. Abe walked into the hospital. He looked very serious, like he had a bad cold. His wife had made him some hot soup and told him to rest. But Mr. Ade wasn't interested in soup. Do you know what he was really after? He wanted to see Nurse Blessing. He had heard she was the most beautiful nurse in the whole hospital, and he couldn't wait to meet her. So he walked up to her holding his stomach and said, "Nurse Blessing, I feel so sick. Can you help me?" Nurse Blessing looked at him with a kind smile. "Oh, Mr. Ade, you don't look sick. Are you sure you're not just here to see me?" Mr. Ade turned red in the face. "Oh, no, I am really sick, nurse. I promise." Nurse Blessing didn't say anything but smiled. She knew what was going on. Mr. Ade wasn't the only one. That very same day, another man named Mr. David came in. He too was pretending to be sick. "Doctor," he said as he walked into Dr. Scholar's office, "I have a headache. Can you please help me?" Dr. Kola raised an eyebrow. "A headache? Are you sure? Or do you just want to see Nurse Linda?" Mr. David looked embarrassed. "Oh, doctor, you know what? You are right. I was just hoping to see Nurse Linda, but I really do have a little headache too." Dr. Kola couldn't help but laugh. He knew that most of the men who came to his hospital weren't really sick. They were just after the beautiful nurses. But did he mind? Not at all. In fact, Dr. Kola was very clever. He knew that if people came to see the nurses, they would get better care and maybe even feel a little happier. Soon, the hospital became so popular that men from all over Nigeria started visiting. They would tell their wives, "I am feeling very sick, darling. I need to go to the hospital." And off they would go, just to sit and talk with the beautiful nurses. One day, Mrs. Okafor, a wise woman who had heard about the rumors about the hospital, decided to visit. She had suspected that her husband, Mr. Okafor, had been going to see Dr. Scholar's hospital just to see the nurses. When Mr. Okafor was about to leave for the hospital, Mrs. Okafor stood in front of him. "Where are you going?" she asked. "I am not feeling well, dear," Mr. Okafor replied, trying to sound weak. "Oh, really?" Mrs. Okafor said with a sly smile. "Well, I will come with you. I think I need a checkup too." Mr. Okafor was shocked. "But you are not sick, are you?" "I'm not sick either, but I'm curious to see those beautiful nurses everyone is talking about," she said, crossing her arms. And so, Mrs. Okafor followed her husband to the hospital. When they arrived, she noticed the men sitting around the waiting room, all looking nervous and trying to hide their excitement. They were all there for one reason: the beautiful nurses. Mrs. Okafor looked at Nurse Blessing and Nurse Linda. So this is why my husband comes here often, she whispered to herself. But instead of getting angry, Mrs. Okafor had an idea. She walked up to Nurse Blessing and said, "I would like to meet the doctor. My husband says he's the best in town." Nurse Blessing smiled warmly. "Of course, let me take you to Dr. Kola." As they entered Dr. Kola's office, she shook his hand and said, "I have a lot about your hospital, doctor. I see why so many people come here. You have made your hospital famous with these lovely nurses." Dr. Kola smiled. "Yet it seems beauty attracts people, but it also attracts because we care about our patients, and that's what really counts." Mrs. Okafor laughed. "I am sure it is, but I think the secret is more about the nurses than the treatment, don't you think?" Dr. Kola winkled. "Maybe just a little bit." And from that day on, the hospital continued to be a place where people came for two things: to get better and to admire the beautiful nurses. Was it the best hospital in town? Maybe not, but it was sure the most visited. The men kept pretending to be sick, the wife kept visiting, and everyone, no matter what, left with a smile on their face. What do you think? Would you just visit a hospital just to see the nurses? Or would you go for the treatment rather? And also tell me what you would do if you are one of the men or the wives in this story. Would you lie about being sick, or would you go for the treatment? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing African tales. Bye. Love you.